Okay. I know some of you have some experience with Dotloop and some of you probably don't have much, if any. So I'm going to start by showing you how to start your loop. And like I said, if you have any questions as we go, just, let me know. So in your loop or in your Dotloop, it should say up at the top, it should show lantern, should say premium. And then over on the side, it'll show your name. Let's see if I can get it to drop down. Okay, so you have a member ID number. If you ever need assistance from Dotloop and you call them, they will probably ask you for that. You can find it on your screen. Just also identify yourself as a Lantern Realty agent. They may be able to find you that way. We do have a few offices, so they may ask you office specific. I'm not sure. They're usually pretty helpful. There is also a chat box. They also have, if you go down to the Help Center button, I believe that's the one that should jump you over to where they have all their tutorials and their videos and stuff like that. So you may find one that is specific to your needs or your questions. You can always reach out to me and I will answer whatever I know. I don't know everything about Dotloop, but I know enough to get around, and I've been using it for several years. So in your account, if you want to get more specific, you can click your My Account button. You can enter your information in there just so it shows up. You can change your profile picture. I have a few. Most of you should have one, possibly two, but for the most part, you should just have one profile. Because of my admin access, I have a few profiles. So I'm trying to use one that has minimal information that you guys will see. So to get started, basically, if you're going to help somebody, you are going to want to create a loop. But let's actually, before we do that, if you go up to the top, there's all these different icons. Okay, the one that says templates, if you have not yet, you can look at that one. In here are a lot of template folders, most of which were created by Lantern to make it easier for you to find things that you need. We did put together a referral folder. We have agents who refer back and forth between Lantern agents or agents outside the firm or whatever. So it has your basic documents you would need. There's a Dotloop checklist for referrals to help you kind of make sure that you are putting stuff in the loop that you would need. It's very minimal information. That's one of your easiest ones for a loop. But also, please let us know if you ever have a referral, if it gets close to closing, if it's the day before, the day of, or whatever. Please make sure there is a referral agreement in your loop, that it is signed by you and the other agent. And not only in your loop, but you make us aware at closing. So the best way to make sure a referral does not get missed is to email me, Dina Petty, and Paula Siebert. And that way, because we're the three who are going to be in that, but the other two are the ones that cut the commission checks to drop into your bank account. So you definitely want to make sure they know about it. Having it in your loop is great, but sometimes things get overlooked. So please just shoot us a message that says, this just closed, there is a referral in the loop, just to kind of make us aware. Sometimes if there's a lot of files in your loop, we won't see a referral agreement amongst those. And sometimes things are not labeled to say referral agreement, makes it hard to know as well. We do have Dotloop checklists right here. You see the one for the referrals is in there. You know what? I'm going to roll right back to this referral one. There's different referral agreements. There's one for residential. There's one for commercial. There's also a broker to builder referral agreement, because a lot of people, that's what they're having to do if they can't find a home. They're having one built. Well, there is a referral agreement if you can get the builder to sign that. you know, that might help you get paid, or at least have your backup work to where they've said they will pay you. So anyway, Dotloop checklist. I personally make sure I have one of these in all my personal loops. I still look at them because we get busy and we may think we did something and we didn't. And the purpose of these is to let you know the majority of the documents, or the most common documents that you should have in your loop. And also as you get them in your loop and get them completed, and use it however you want. But they are a little bit different. The buyer and the listing, a little bit different from each other, but for the most part, it's the same documents, just in different orders. You can create your loop however you want. I try to keep mine like this because if I'm trying to look for a document in my loop, it is so much easier for me if I have them grouped in the proper folders. And you'll see what a folder looks like in a minute if you have not created one yet. But this does tell you, like I said, the basic documents that you need to have in your loop. A lot of these are must-haves. Some of them are highly suggested. But this is the thing to know about Dotloop is when you create a loop and you add documents, that loop and those documents can never be deleted. So you cannot accidentally delete or lose a document. It will always be there. And that is good because if the real estate commission comes calling and you can't find your paper copy, or your zip drive got destroyed and that's where your copies were, or you accidentally deleted it from your computer, it will be in Dotloop. So if you need a copy of it, you know where to find it. If Lantern has to get a copy of it, they can find it. So it's great for that. You know, and everybody has their preference. Use whatever system you like. I just like Dotloop. It's what I'm used to. And I do like the fact that you cannot delete anything. So, and you can hide it, you can archive it, and I'll show you that in a minute. But most of these documents, please have them in your loop. Please have them filled out. Please make sure you sign your documents. The ones in bold, that is how I label my folders, and you'll see that. Because like I said, it kind of groups everything where I can easily find it if I'm looking for something, but I will also be able to tell if I forgot to put something in my loop because I have my list, and I will be able to see it's not there. Like everybody, we get busy, we get in a rush, we think we did it and we didn't. So sometimes I have it saved in the folder on my laptop and it's not actually in Dotloop, but this is going to help me recognize that. So. And of course, you will have documents to put in your loop that may not be on this list. Not all those documents apply, but I do suggest putting one of those lists in your loop every time. We do have a buyer folder. These documents, we try to make sure everything is updated every year. In July, they change the documents, sometimes by one word, sometimes there's a lot of differences, sometimes there's not really, but they will have updated ones come out every July. And so we try to make sure everything is updated for you, but we created a buyer folder. So if you want to quickly find those basic documents to put into your loop, you can come and click on the buyer folder and select the documents you need. These are the most basic, like I said, so you may need something that's not in here. You may not need all of them. You're required to give sample documents to your clients. So you will find those in here as well. But so you can just click on what you want and upload it, and I'll show you. So we did the same thing with the listing. We did the same thing with coming soon. There's one for the sample copy forms because you're supposed to give out sample copies. And then if you scroll a little bit lower, there is the template folder, and that is all of the 2021, 2022 real estate forms. So if you are doing a commercial property, use your commercial forms. They're in here. Rentals, like almost everything is in here. So, and they also added, the one below it is most of those forms, but with the word sample behind it. So you can, if you want one of those, you can do that. So I'm going to jump back over. If I go too fast, please let me know. Sometimes I go a little slow and sometimes I get talking fast and then I bounce around, and I apologize for that. Just call me out on it. So we are going to create a loop. You're going to go over and you're going to select add loop. When you do that, it's going to take you to this first screen. So a lot of you have probably seen this if you created a loop, and some of you may not have if this is your first time really getting into Dotloop. So you have options. You don't have to put the property address or the MLS number if you don't want to. If you're working with a buyer, you're probably not going to have a property address at first, and that's okay. And you can do this however you want, but keep in mind, if we have a check that comes in with only an address on it or only a client's name, it's helpful if those are part of your loop name. That's helpful. If it is a referral, you can always add that to it. So there's different things you can do. Whatever you name your loop, it is not stuck like that. You can rename your loop. Dotloop allows for that. So if it's a listing, I might do the property address. But if it's my buyers, I start with my buyer names. So we're going to go real basic here and name it whatever you want. Okay, I'm going super basic. So it's John Smith, that's my buyer. Now you can hit the continue button, but you can hit enter as well. Works the same. Now it says loop template. So we have loop template forms that we created as well. So we've got your buying template. It's going to have those documents in it that were in the buyer folder. We tried to put all those in a loop template as well. So if you know those are everything that you want, great, you can click that and it'll put all that into the loop for you. There's also one for listing. You can click that as well. But you do what you want. I always bypass that. You do not have to select a loop template. The reason I bypass it is because Dotloop allows you to create personalized template folders. So if you have documents that you've personalized, you can take those from the template folders and put them into your loop. But if you want to use the loop templates and you're going to use everything that's in there, then go ahead and select a buyer or a listing. If there's documents in there that you don't need or you don't want to look at, you can archive those so you don't have to look at them. But I'm going to bypass that. Upload a photo. You can do that if you want to, and it's not a photo of your pretty face. It is a photo of the property, typically, whatever photo you want to add if you have it. Again, with buyers, you probably don't have a photo to upload. With a listing, you may or may not have a photo right away to upload, and that is okay. You can hit done or you can hit enter. Okay, both of them work the same way. It adjusted my name of my loop. I must have hit enter when it was suggesting a address. So there is a John Smith Drive apparently. That's okay. I can fix that, or you can fix that. So from here, you can choose, you can click, see where my little fingers are. You can click anywhere in here and it will take you into the loop, or you can run way over here and click view loop. Doesn't matter. So you can also select the type of loop from right here. That might help you stay organized as well, so that all your loops don't say none. You may be working with the same client for a buy and a sell and have two different loops, or they may be a repeat client. But so you can choose whatever you want in here. I'm just going to go ahead and choose purchased, and you don't have to choose it from here. You can choose it later too. So my status on this one, this helps me keep everything straight. It's pre-offer. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to ask me again, do you want a template? No, I do not. You might. I do not. Okay, so it's going to start off with a folder automatically. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I don't like that it renamed my loop for me, is I'm going to click on it, and it's going to take me to another screen. So this one is good for you because what's good and bad. So it's showing you your information, and you can select from here. You can choose your role. Okay, I'm a buying agent. See little edit buttons. Those are there to change. This is just a pre-fill, so that does not matter. These are pre-fill. If you come down to the property address, this is it pre-filled because, like I said, I must have hit enter when it was suggesting an address, when it thought I was looking for an address. I'm taking this out. If you are working with a buyer, you do not want anything filled in under property address. And the reason for that is because right now your buyer may not go under contract on the first offer that you submit. Okay, and if you pre-fill the information in here for that offer on 123 Main Street, and they do not get 123 Main Street, and then you see 123 Ridge Avenue, and you decide you're going to put an offer in on that, it's going to take the information that is saved on this screen, and the next time you pull up an offer to purchase to fill in for that next property, it's going to take this information and it's going to throw it in there. And that will create a problem because it's going to pull, if you have the deed book and page number in here, and you have the property ID number or anything else like that, it is going to put it on that offer to purchase. If you do not notice that it's done that, and you go ahead and submit that, then you don't look like the best agent to the listing agent, because that information will not match that listing. And you want to do everything you can to convince them that you would be a great agent to work a cross transaction with. So I don't even know where all of these little remarks came from. It must have pulled it from a listing. I'm removing everything just because I don't want any of this pre-filled. And this is a lot to remove, apparently. All right, let's make sure this is good learning for you. Stuff like this happens. I'm going to delete it all. This is very important. I've gone through all this before and forgot to hit save, and it reverted back. So, all right, so I've saved that. We're in here. Custom name. Let me finish getting rid of that. I'm going to fix this custom name now. This is mess. Okay. I'm going to hit save again. Okay, so once I'm satisfied that that looks like how I want, I'm going to go back to my loop. Okay. This is again where you can change. I did it at the beginning of the loop, but you can do it inside the loop. So you can adjust all these. Once we submit an offer for John or Mr. Smith and it gets accepted, I'm going to switch it to under contract. When you do that, at that point, you'll have more information you can add, like the closing date, the purchase price, stuff like that. So folder, I like to name my stuff so I can keep it organized. It's easier for me as an agent. It's also easier for me as a compliance officer if they're named and organized, just so y'all know. It's easier for me when clearing loops. So I'm going to just keep it simple and just call it buyer docs. You can name it whatever you want, or you can leave it as folder. Another reason to name all your folders is when you submit them for review for me, it's going to ask you which folder, and if all your folders say folder, you're not going to really remember which folder had the document, and you're probably just going to just start clicking away on everything. So from here, if you want to add a document, if this was not showing right here, you would click add document, and then this would pop up. So you have options here. You can go into the templates and say, I want to add something from here. And if you had personalized documents, it would bring that up here. I'm going to roll down, and the first thing you have to have signed, let me try this again, I rolled past it. So the first thing you have to have signed with any agent, or not any agent, any client or potential client, is you're working with real estate agents. So I'm clicking that because If John doesn't sign that first, or John doesn't sign it at all, and the real estate commission comes looking for it, I'm going to be in trouble. And I don't like to be in trouble. So this is a working with real estate agent. 261B is kind of the explanation question and answer brochure they have for your clients. So if they want to see that or read it, you should explain everything to them, but you can give them a copy. You can click on that and put that in your loop. But I know that I want my checklist for me personally, because I don't want to forget anything. So the other thing that you have to have is right here, the affiliated business disclosure. This goes whether you have a buyer or a seller, whether they use anybody on this list or not, and we'll look at it, but whether we use it or not, or whether they use it or not, we have to disclose to them the business relationship that we have with the vendors on that list. They may not use a single one of them, and that's okay. May not even apply to them, and that's okay. But because we have a business relationship with those vendors, we have to let people know about it. And that is why you have to have it signed. It's nothing else, for no other reason, but that's just, we just have to protect ourselves. So I will end up having him sign a buyer agency agreement, because I'm not going to go run around and show him a bunch of houses right now, especially with the gas prices how they are, if he's not going to be exclusive to me, if he's just a looky-loo. So I'm going to find all that out. I'm going to get a copy of his pre-approval, and I'm going to get all that done. So in here is pretty much everything you would need for a buyer, for the most part, to get going. But I've only selected a few for now, and I'm gonna tell it okay, and it just threw those in there for me. See how nice and easy that was? John Smith does not have an email address, but we're gonna add him. You can add him in here. Make sure you add your people. If you add your people before you get into the document, it will pre-fill them according to the role that you assign to them. So we're gonna add John. They have any emails? Right now, John does not have an email assigned to him, but you know, you can add one for your client. So in here, it wants to know what is his role. So you're going to scroll down. He's a buyer, so I'm going to add him as a buyer. But sometimes you add people who are not your clients, and that's fine. You can select their role in here. If you don't see it, choose other. That's fine. You can pre-fill whatever information you want. When you create an offer, it will take this information and throw it into the offer to purchase. My suggestion when it does that is to remove your client's personal information from that offer to purchase, because the listing agent and the sellers do not need your client's contact information. They do not need to be reaching out to him at any point, or her. They should be going through you. So, and you can put it in there if you want. I do not. So when I go into the affiliated business disclosure, you do have to put a text box up here if you do not know how to do that. And you can rename these documents. You can click on it right there and rename it. I'm going to leave it like this for now. After my client signs it, I'll probably just rename it to ABD, just because. So if you didn't see what I did, I'm going to add a text box. But when you come up here, you're going to see different options. So this is a good one that a lot of people don't realize. Sometimes when we scan things in or upload them, they're sideways or upside down. The rotate button almost always will be highlighted so you can use it. If it's grayed out, it won't let you rotate the document. But you can do it by page, or if it's multi-documents and they're all upside down or whatever, you can do it by the file. So you just click whichever way you want to go, and it will turn that puppy for you. So, and sometimes it thinks about it. So that is very handy. I've had to do that a few times. Over here, add. This is your add box. So you will need to add stuff at some point, always. You can add a signature, initials, text, date, name, so on, strike through box. I'm going to add text. So I'm going to click on the text. Oh, click on the text. And I can put it wherever I want on the page, but I'm going to drop it right here. But say I messed up and I left it right there. That is no big deal. You just find your little arrows and you can move it. You can size it, right? Just find your little arrow, drag. You can make it really big. You can make it smaller. The size of your text box is going to determine the size of the text of your font. That it will let you choose. You can choose to change the way the writing is just a little bit, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm going to put this in here. And then that's plenty big of a box, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit just because that's my own issue. Then you're going to come down and it's going to have your client and you. Please make sure that when you send something for your client to sign, please make sure that you are double checking that you have signed it as well. A lot of us are used to our clients signing everything, and we don't typically have to electronically sign a whole lot of things. So I think that's why sometimes we miss signing our agency agreements or whatever else, just because we're just used to putting the information in, sending it out, and forgetting about it, so to speak. But we always make sure, when you get a document back from your client, just jump in there, make sure you've initialed everywhere you're supposed to initial, make sure you've signed everywhere you're supposed to sign. So I've put John's name in here, and now I want John to sign it. So I'm going to choose a signature box, and I'm going to put it right here. And again, this is my own personal issue, but I'm going to resize this box. And you can make it big, little, whatever. But if I mess up and I've dropped it over here and I didn't want it over there, and there, or maybe I've added a box and didn't need to, if you click on whatever you added, see, if I click on the text box I added, I've got a whole bunch of options up top. One of them is the little X that says remove the field. So if you've dropped something you don't want, just click on what it is. Click on it first. So that is the object you'll delete, and you can remove it. So anyways, so I'm gonna put that there. And the option says assign field. So I've clicked on it, and it's going to give me a list of options up here, and it's going to say, who do you want to assign it to? I will assign it to John, but you can assign it to no one. And that will come in use later, and I'll show you what that is. But if I didn't see John up here, if John wasn't in the list because I forgot to add him to my loop, it's not a big deal. I can go down here and click add person, and it's going to bring up that box where I can then put John's name, John's email address, whatever else I feel like putting in there. So I'm going to assign it to John. Now it says John sign here. I would do the same thing over here for me. When you add yourself as an agent, and it recognizes that you're the agent, it will also give you an option to sign right at that very moment. That is your decision to make depending on the document. But please just double check, make sure you're signing stuff. So the great thing with Dotloop is it timestamps everything. So when anybody initials something or anybody signs something electronically with Dotloop, it will have their signature, it will have the date, and it will have the time. So I'm not going to send this to John first, plus I don't have his email address in here because I never sent him a working with real estate agent. So I'm going to click on the working with real estate agent. Now it says, wait, we can pre-fill some of this information for you. And it puts it up here and it says, here's what we have. So buyer one is John Smith. If John also says, oh, wait, let's add my wife, Jane, then I can do that here. Or maybe I'm talking to her too. So I'm going to have her sign the working with real estate agent. And you can do that just by clicking on the box. And it says, well, here's your people to choose from. She's not there. not a problem. I can add a person and add her at that point. It has added me as the buyer's agent because that's the role I assigned myself when I created the loop. So that is correct. It pre-filled my information. It pre-filled my license number and everything because I set up my account under my profile. So that is something you want to make sure you've done. Go in there, add your license number, you know, whatever else you feel like adding. There is a place where it asks for your home address. Well, that is your choice. I did not put my personal information in my Dotloop because I don't want it accidentally appearing anywhere. I don't know if it can, but your choice, like I said, but it will pre-fill it because I have this information in my account and I'm gonna tell it to auto-fill it. So the real estate commission, when we had somebody on from the real estate commission talking about the working with real estate agent disclosure, they told us that this is actually a two-sided form. And I know this is not actually a forms class, but this is supposed to be a two-sided form. So for every client you have, you are supposed to show them the buyer's side and the seller's side. They are supposed to have a copy of both sides, even if you only work with them as one particular type of client. But most forms sites, it's all separated as two different documents. So keep that in mind, upload both, make sure your client has both copies, even if they're not working with you as a buyer or seller, just go ahead and do it. So the other thing they told us is to check all that might apply or may apply at some point with your buyer. So if you're working with a buyer, it will always be a buyer agency, right? Because you're going to be working with them, you're going to have an exclusive buyer agency agreement. And even if you never see somebody again, if you're talking with them about buying a home and you just start going into all those details, you are supposed to have your working with real estate agent signed, right, for substantial contact. So even if you never see them again, you need to have them sign this, and you need to explain to them that even if you never see them again, the real estate commission at any point can ask you for that form. You have to present it. So just as long as they understand it's not a contract, they're not binding to you, you are just doing what the real estate commission requires. So a buyer agency will always apply. Dual agency, and you may know ahead of time, they may have found a property that is not a Lantern property, and that's all they're going to put an offer in. And if they don't get it, they're never going to see you again. That's fine. You don't have to check dual agency in that case. But for the most part, we have a lot of cross sales with Lantern agents, right? So it is possible that a dual agency may apply. So I check my box anyway, okay? Designated dual agency, that might apply. If your client wants you to exclusively represent them and they don't want you to represent the opposite party, then they may want you to be the designated dual agent. You know, so if that's the case, you can check that also. Unrepresented buyer, we don't work seller sub agents. It's risky for all parties involved, so that I will not check. Now in the future, you may be selling a home and you may have a buyer that wants to buy the property and he's not represented by an agent and doesn't want to be. And if you're the seller, then you're going to come in here and you're going to say, okay, you're not being represented by anybody, you know, and make that clear to him, explain that to them. In that case, the only box you would check is unrepresented buyer, and you would have them sign it. Okay, it's kind of the opposite with a seller. So if you have a buyer and they're doing a for sale by owner that they're purchasing, you're going to get the seller copy out, working with real estate sellers, and you're going to check the box for the unrepresented seller. And this is where he would sign it. So one of the things that I do, this says buyer sign here and it says John sign here. So a lot of the forms will automatically do that. Personally, I will click on it and I will come over here because see, it says assigned to buyers and it still has John's name over there. I will go down and I will choose no one, because sometimes it will only have John sign where it specifically says John here. But some of the forms, if it says buyer sign here, it will have him or allow him to go over there and sign there as well. And you don't need his name on this document more than once. And there are other places in other forms that are kind of similar. It has this all pre-filled. That looks fantastic. I'm going to hit save. If I had John's email address, I would choose share. And when you do that, it's going to pop this up and it's going to say, well, here's who you can share it with. And I would select John's name, or it may automatically share it with him because he's got an email address. But please pay attention to this drop down box right here. It says he can sign it. Sometimes that box will say view only. Sometimes it will say fill in and sign, or sometimes it will say can edit in private. Okay. There's nothing for him to fill in, so I'm not giving him that option because I don't want him adjusting anything on the form. He only needs to sign it. Now, if it's a document that you were sending him just for his review purposes and he doesn't need to sign anything, then you can choose view only. But just double check that box before you send anything out. Make sure it says what you want. Because if you are sending it to another agent, it may say can edit in private. And I might not want that other agent to be able to edit in private. I might want that other agent to only be able to sign or only be able to view the document. So just always double check that. If you've already shared it and John's not signing it and John's not signing it and John's not signing it, then go up to reshare and his name will pop up there because you've already shared it with him, and just click it and tell it to reshare it with him. Or he may have lost it and can't find it in his email anywhere. It's another reason to reshare. But you can come over here where it says enter custom message. And at this point, I've already talked to John about working with real estate agents. I may have talked to him over the phone. I may have talked to him in person. And now we are just getting the form signed electronically. Then I will put that, I will reference that in here. I won't ever send a client something without a message. And that is just for me. So I have that backup that I did explain what it is. Because Dotloop also saves your messages that go out. Okay, so in here, I would just, whatever you call him, Mr. Smith, hey, John, however you reference, typically, I will put that in there. Hey, John, you know, please review the working with real estate agent for buyers. This is the document we discussed on the phone this morning. And it just kind of goes over, you know, such and such, right? And then I will add, you know, if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime. You know, thank you. I just do kind of something like that. So when it goes in his mail and he sees that message, he's like, oh, okay, this is what it is. He's not blindly signing whatever and can't recall what it is. But you also have your message where you just, you know, restated, you already explained this to him. Here's what it is. This is what we talked about whenever. So you've got that in there as well, stating that you did already talk to him about it. You're not just throwing things at him to sign. But please get this done first over any other document if you are doing it electronically. If you signed it in person, fantastic. But if you're sending documents electronically, do your working with real estate agent first, because it timestamps it. And the commission says, before anything else, this must be signed. And I will usually attach a PDF to an email right there. Okay, so he can easily print it off if he wanted to do it that way, and then click share. It will send it to him. I will always rename this as well, but like I said, you can just click up there to rename it, or you can rename it from the outside. I do not want to share. I do not have an email to share it with. So over here, working with real estate agent, if I wanted to rename it, these got these handy little drop down boxes. So, and you have options here. You can open a document, rename the document. You can make a copy. When you make a copy, it will make a copy to Dotloop. And if I choose that, you can do this with any document. It will say, do you want to copy it as a Dotloop document or as a flat PDF? And it says right there, if it's a flat PDF, signatures are preserved. They are not editable. This is important because if you need to make a change on a Dotloop document means it stays live. Okay, those signatures are there, they're green, you can see them. If you go into that document and you try to make an adjustment to it, it will first pop up a box that lets you know if you continue, it will wipe out all the signatures and initials on that page. Do you want to continue? Now, if you're in a hurry and you're not paying attention and you just click yes because you think it's asking you something else, you've just wiped out all the initials and signatures on a buyer agency agreement or the offer to purchase that you just wrote up. And then you have an issue because it was time stamped to show things you did things in the right order, or that you entered into an agency agreement before going under contract, and you've just wiped out all those signatures. So you cannot get that version back. Now, if you have saved a copy to your computer, that's fantastic. You have the original document, but a Dotloop document stays live. So if you need to make an adjustment to something, like you're going to strike through something, correct a name, add a date, whatever, that's fine. You can do that, get your initials next to it, showing that it was okay to make that change, but you can copy as a flat PDF. And from here, either one you choose, it's going to say, where do you want to put it? Do you want to put it in templates, like if you have your own personalized template folder or not? Or do you want to put it in the loop? So, and I'm going to choose the loop, and it's going to say, well, which loop do you want it in? I'm just putting it right back where it is because y'all don't need to see what's in any of my other loops. So, or you can create a loop from here to put it in. And we tell it to copy. So there may be some documents in here. Maybe John becomes a seller as well as a buyer. And I might want a document from here to go into that other loop. That would be another reason. Make a copy, create a loop, throw it in there. Anyways, backing up over here. And if you make a copy, it'd probably be best to rename them so you know the difference between them. So if you did have to go in, and let me see, this should be the one I just made because it's darker. So here's what it's going to look like as a flat PDF. Okay, John never signed it, so that's no big deal. But if I needed to make a change, then I can come up here, strike through whatever on any document, right? And drop down my initial boxes. I'm going to drop down an initial for John, assign it to John. And because it's a document between me and John, it's going to look nicer than this if you do this, but you know, just, and you cannot drop a field over another field, which is why every time I move, it thinks I'm on the strike through. If that happens, just move it because you can't see how it moves it. You cannot cross a field, a live one. So then I'm going to assign it to me because I need to initial the change. And now it's going to say, sign it now. I can or I not. I am. There it goes. And you can't really read it. But anyways, it doesn't matter because this is an example, so I'm going to let that be. But that's kind of pretty much how you would do it. And then you can save and share, or you can just save. And again, if I didn't mean to put a strike through on there, and then I would click on the strike through, hit that little X button up at the top and get rid of it. So it's just pretty much going to do this for all the documents. Okay, so it's doing the same thing here. I go to open a buyer agency, it'll do this with a listing agreement as well. If I want to change anything to pre-fill, I can do it now. So double check this. I'm not 100% sure why, but when it goes to pre-fill and it has buying agent, so it has my information in here, I'm pretty positive it pulls this from what's in my account under my profile when I edit my accounts and my profiles. So it has all my information in here, which is fantastic. So I've noticed there are some forms that come through from other agents and the address is wrong. It may be an address to another firm, or for whatever reason, the address is crossed with another one of our locations. And I don't know why that is, unless it is from somebody's profile just having the wrong information in it or an incorrect address. So when it goes to do this and it says, here's the information, this is my opportunity to correct that. So if you are out of Salisbury, just make sure it says 105 North Main Street, Suite B, Salisbury, and so on. Again, I'm not 100% sure why the addresses are kind of merged a little bit on some people's information, but it is. So just double check it. If your phone number has changed, your license number shouldn't change, but you know, so that's a good place to stop and make sure that's correct. And if not, correct it on the form. So it just pre-filled Lantern Realty and Development. It pre-filled John's name. This may be incorrect. You can correct it. You can pretty much click on it and correct it. Okay. So if you personalize your forms, doesn't matter, you know, you can still correct them. Please don't miss this date. Occasionally the date gets missed. So just, I know we're in a hurry. I know we have a lot to do, personal lives as well as real estate, but please, what your forms look like, I think will speak to a lot of people as to maybe how what kind of agent you are, I guess, that want to know that you're looking at them and making them correct. You want to look professional with your clients as well. I know we all cringe when we have to come back to our clients and tell them we missed something or whatever. So this just kind of helps prevent that. We all do it. I promise you, I forget to put certain documents in my own loops sometimes, which is why I have my checklist. But in any case, so just go through, fill it in. If you have nothing to say, general location, it's residential, general location, put something there. Whatever, whether you list the counties you're interested in or the general area, the city, whatever. If you don't use a box, sorry, I bumped something. Okay, so if you're not going to use a box, put something there. Don't leave blanks because you don't want somebody else to fill them in, but you also want to let yourself know, no, I meant to not put something there, instead of, oh, let me check on that and I'll come back and fill it in, and then you forget, and then you have a missing piece of information. But go through and fill them out, read it, fill out what is appropriate. I'm not going to do this. Most of you should be somewhat familiar with them, but just go through, and I will come through here, and like I said, I will change. You don't always have to do it, but some of the documents, it will give them the freedom to sign where it says buyer, and I really only want John to sign in one place. Don't leave blanks. So fill something in. You are supposed to give them sample copies. Give them sample copies of these things. Click your little buttons. Don't leave blanks. I have no additional provisions. And some of the fields do this where it says edit text. So just click on it. Don't leave your blanks. None, NA, something. This is a good one because sometimes there's cross signatures all over the place and they're a little bit conflicting in the information. John's gonna allow the firm to act as a dual agent instead of exclusive representation. If he does not authorize the firm to act in the capacity of dual agent, then I cannot show him any listings by a Lantern agent. Okay, that eliminates a lot of properties. I don't want him to accidentally sign there. And discuss it with your client. That's how they may want it. They may not want, you know, a cross sell with Lantern, whatever. Go over this and initial in the proper place. But so basically go through, fill it out. You can have John's contact information on here. It's fine as a buyer agency agreement. Nobody else sees it but the firm and you. And then again, I'm double checking all my information looks correct. And then I have to add the firm's phone number, but like I said, you can rename it, you can save it, you can share it, whatever you want to do. Okay. documents. So we messed around a lot with this first working with real estate, and I'm going to rename my copy. You can rename it whatever. This is just for now, so it doesn't matter. You can share from here if you want. It says right here, shared with admins. Had I shared it with John, it would have a number 3 and John's name would come up there, so I would know I shared it. But rolling back over to the side of these little dots, you have make a copy, you have history, print, download. If you want to save a copy, you might have to turn it on.
I didn't even realize.
Hang on just a second. Did you mute it? Yeah, okay. All right, so if you want to put a copy into, save a copy into your computer, you can print it, save it, however you save things in your computer. This is my copy. So I don't really need it. I didn't need it like I thought I did. So I'm going to hit archive and now it's gone. It's not really, but it looks like it, right? It's not deleted. If you ever accidentally lose a document and you don't know where it went, if it says show archived, just click on that. Anything you archived will pop up in light gray. So you can, at that point, if I did not mean to archive it, it's not a problem. Now it says unarchive. You can bring it back to life, okay? So if you have 5 versions of any particular document and you really only want the one version, archive the other ones. Excuse me. That way you don't have to keep jumping into all the different versions of it, not knowing which one you really want. And then that way, if you submit it for review, I'm not jumping into all the different versions, not knowing which one is the one that's needed. It just saves time. So working with real estate agent, rolling back up to here. So this document we messed around in. So there's a lot of different stuff. So one of these buttons says history. If you click on that, it brings up the history of changes. So you can see from the beginning, it says I added that document from templates, okay? It has a day and a time. I viewed the document, it has a day and a time. I modified the document, it gives you the day and the time. So if your client is looking at a document and telling you they've never seen it, you'll know because it will say John Smith viewed the document. If you send something to another agent through Dotloop and they're telling you they never received it, go to your history, because if they viewed it, you will see that. If they saved a copy of it, you will know that also, because it will say that they converted it to a tamper-proof PDF or whatever the version is. That tells you they've got a copy of it. So if they tell you they never saw it, go here, because it will tell you exactly when they did it and who did it. It will have their name. So, but there's also an activity log up here. If you click that, that's your activity log for the whole entire loop. You can see where I changed the name and I added documents and stuff. So gives you times and stuff like that. If you send out a note like, hey, John, sign this so-and-so, it will show up in here. But it will also show up in here. So you have this little message box. There's no notes, but if I click on it, had I sent something to John, make sure you click on the proper name. The name you click on is the name that's active. Okay, so if I meant to send something to John and George is highlighted, where George is in black because I forgot to click John's name, and I'm going to tell John, oh my gosh, this listing agent is being a pain, I'm so sorry, whatever, and you hit send and you didn't look to make sure you clicked on the right name, now George knows what you think of him. So two little notes on that. Make sure you click on the proper person. And even if you think George is a pain or something else, don't put it in your Dotloop notes, okay? Because that will stay out here. And you don't want to accidentally, send George a message like that. So, but you can go over here and you can click John Smith. You can type whatever you want to do, hit send, it goes to him. He can reply in the email that comes to him, and it'll load it into the Dotloop notes automatically if he replies to that email, or he can view the note and then respond to it. But if who you want to send a note to is not listed over there, that's not a problem. Just click new note. I'm going to pop up as admin. George is there. Here's the rest of our admin. So if you needed to send a note to somebody, you can click on their name and send a note that way. And the great thing with that, like I said, it'll have a history of stuff like that. So the other thing you can do, which some people do accidentally, and it's another thing that freaks them out thinking they lost stuff. These are folders. Folders are meant to close. So if you click on the title, it closes it. Okay. If you know you had documents and now you don't see them, just look to see if you accidentally closed the folder. That's all. So that saves a lot of the stress thinking you've lost something. I can add a folder. I want to add a folder because now we're under contract. You can call it whatever you want. I'm either going to put under, it's not even spelled right. I'm either going to put under contract or contract docs or whatever. You can get it from email, right? Dotloop will only upload PDFs. The laptop version will only upload a PDF. So if another agent sends you the signed contract and it's a PDF copy and they've emailed it to you, you can just click the email button and this big old long thing, it says copy to clipboard. Now it's copied. You can go into the email and hit forward, and up in the little button that says who you're sending it to, just paste this big old long thing and hit send. And what it will do is it will only take that PDF copy and upload that into your loop. So the thing to note with that is if I do that, it's not going to just automatically pop up here. I have to watch for it and then refresh. And then when it's done sending it from the email, it will show right there. So if at first you don't see something that you thought you uploaded, just hit refresh, wait a minute, whatever. Otherwise you will upload it several times thinking it's not going in there. If that happens, just archive it. It's no big deal. So, and then you can, like I said, you can add documents. Browse is what will allow you to pull a PDF from your computer. So if you have files saved and you want to take something from there, that's not a problem. As soon as you hit browse, it's going to pop up your folder and you can go searching for whatever the document is, tell it to add it, and that should show up as soon as it's loaded. Well, let me think. I know I mentioned several things and okay, so you have documents. When you have your transactions, as you have things signed, submit them for review, because it will only take me a minute to go through those documents. Whereas if you wait until closing or after closing and your commission check's getting ready to be deposited into Lantern's bank and you're going to submit all your documents and you submit 50 documents at one time, takes me a little while to get through those to make sure the documents are fine. If I'm going through those documents and there's something missing, there's something not signed, whatever the case may be, or I'm like, oh, hey, I don't see a buyer agency agreement. Do you have a copy of that? And you thought you got one signed and you just don't know, or maybe you spaced because you were in a hurry and never even got one signed. That's a problem. So if you submit as you go, we can catch those early on, make sure your documents look good. That's a lot easier than going back to your client afterward and saying, I need you to sign this, initial this. We need whatever the case may be. You might have an easy time contacting your client, or your client might be traveling cross country, and good luck with that. And that's an issue if the real estate commission comes knocking and they're like, we need to see your file for this transaction, and you're missing some of your documents, or there's not signatures, or whatever the case may be. So if you do this, I can get through these quicker, because if we have 10 closings and everybody's submitting their loops like that at one time, I probably am not going to get through all of them that day. So, and everybody wants to get paid, and it's just, like I said, it's just a lot easier. So if you submit as you go, this is what we're going to do. client signed working with real estate agent, affiliated business, buyer agency agreement. So before I find a house to submit an offer on for my client, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose submit for review. It's up at the top. When you do that, it says, what folder do you want to submit? So you cannot submit, you cannot go in and select individual files to submit, individual documents, and that is okay. Whichever folder the document is in, even if it's one document and it's in the buyer docs, that's okay. Just select that folder, because even if I've reviewed and approved documents, or if somebody else is doing it for me, even if that's already been done, it's okay. It is only going to tell me to review the ones that haven't already been approved. So you select your folder that you want. It says review. There's no other option. It says, why are you submitting for review? You can type something in there or not. It doesn't matter. If you submit something for review, and I'm clearing your loop, and I'm like, you know what? I have not seen the affiliated business disclosure yet. I may send you a note that says, great, don't forget to get the affiliated business disclosure signed and uploaded and submitted. And if that's something you were working on and you just didn't have it in your loop yet because you have a paper copy, that's something where you can say, hey, I'm submitting my buyer documents. As soon as I upload the business disclosure, I'll send that to, you know, if you want to do that, that will just, I will see that and I just won't ask for whatever that document is. If I ask for a document, it's just because I don't see it. I'm reminding you, hey, don't forget, this one needs to be in there. But also I go back and review my notes. So if I'm moving along and I'm looking at your documents, or it's closing time, I'm going to pull up notes that I sent you, because that may remind myself, oh yeah, they said it was a for sale by owner. It's not going to be on the MLS. Therefore, that will help me remember, don't ask them for a copy of the MLS page where it shows that it's under contract or closed because it was a for sale by owner. So you can put notes or not, and then just hit submit. So when we do that, this folder, all of the documents jump over to submitted. Okay. So that will give me an email. Maybe, yep, updated. So it says agent's name updated a review stage in the loop for such and such person. So when I click on that, it will take me to my admin profile, but it's going to tell me it needs reviewed, and it's going to show, you know, for me, it'll say needs reviewed. I'll review it, clear it, or send it back. Hey, it's missing a signature, or you don't have the dates on here, or sometimes people forget to just fill in whatever piece of information. And it's really just to make sure that you're staying in compliance, we're staying in compliance. If the real estate commission ever comes back and says anything, we've got our documents. If your client says, well, you never showed me that, well, we've got the document in here that shows, you know, they signed it, they viewed it, they made a copy, whatever the case may be. We're just kind of trying to keep everybody in check and protect your license. You work hard for it. So just be familiar with the forms. The checklist, when you go in here, there are a few things. So that's why this is in bold, buyer documents, because that's how I name my folders. This is where I'm going to throw certain documents. You can put them wherever you want, but this is just more or less kind of a guideline. Under contract documents, I'm going to put everything that has to do with when it goes under contract. If that contract terminates, then that termination agreement is going to go in there. And at that point, I will rename my folder, and it'll probably say terminated contract or whatever, just so I know, because that doesn't mean my buyer is going to stop looking. We might find something else. So I'm just going to rename my folder, and any other offer we submit, it's going to go in a new folder. So I'm going to keep that stuff separated so that I can find it, and whoever is checking the loops can find it. And it's just going to make everything easier. As a buyer's agent, you should be double checking the measurements of the house. The agent who listed it is supposed to make sure those measurements are correct. But if people are pulling them off of the tax records, or they're going off of prior listings and what that information is, it's not necessarily correct. And as an agent, you are responsible for that. But you can see in here things that may apply or may not apply. Highly suggested, keep copies of email or text communications, okay? Because you may be negotiating and it may be in a text thread. So just keep copies of that, so that if the other agent says, you know, they didn't say that or they didn't agree to that, you've got your communications saved. You may never need them, and I hope you never need them, but some agents have, and it really can make all the difference in the world if you say save your communications. Just like with your client, they may act like they are your best friend, they think the world of you, and they're just so fantastic, and you're so fantastic. And then if they feel like something was missed after the fact, they're going to come back and you didn't tell me that, or you didn't tell me I could do this. And if you have your communications where you clearly told them in an email, hey, just so you know, this is the situation, or am I understanding you correctly? You don't want a septic inspection. I strongly suggest you get one. And they're replying back, nope, don't want one, not going to spend the money. I just don't see the need. I'm sure it's fine. The sellers haven't had an issue, whatever, you know, just keep those communications, because if they move in the house and then all of a sudden septic's backed up and or it's crumbling or whatever the case may be, and they're like, I didn't know, you didn't tell me I could have that inspected. It's this person's fault, and that, you know, you've got what you need to show where you had that conversation. So there's just many examples where it comes in handy to keep. And I mean, it saved a lot of agents having that. So it is highly suggested. So that's just kind of why we added on there. But you'll see after, under all these, we say, please upload these documents to Dotloop and submit them for review within 48 hours of signing. Just do it as soon as you can. I'm fine if you have a contract signed and then 2 hours later you turn around and submit a copy of the earnest money check. That's fine, you know. And if the next day you're submitting the signed receipt of monies, that's fine, because it just takes me a brief moment of time to pull it up, look at it, and make sure it looks good. Okay. I prefer that to getting all the documents after you've closed. And then same thing with the closing documents. So there's a list of things to have in there. The MLS sheet, that is when you go into the MLS and you pull it up, and you know, you can print an agent copy of that MLS page that shows it's active, under contract, closed, whatever. Just save a PDF copy and get that in there. New deed, you want to make sure it was recorded right. It's got your client on there. Everything is done. Just go ahead and do that. And if you have a referral, put it in there. You can fill this stuff out at the top if you want. You don't have to. Part of that's personal reference. It's in the loop. This, I'm not even going to look at your checklist, quite frankly. That is just for you. Even if it says submitted, don't worry about it. It's not going to be a problem. Templates, real quickly. You can go into the templates and you can, right now, there's always a folder that says personal. You can rename it somewhere on these little dots. Oh. There are the little dots. Okay, so if you can get to those 3 little dots next to the template folder, then you have options, and you can delete template folders. If it's your template folder, that's fine. But you can rename it. So you can call it whatever, and you can add, if you add templates, then you can, again, you can go through here, pick out what you want. You can pick out a buyer agency agreement if you want, for example, and then from the templates, let's just do that real quick. So I'm going in here and I'm going to upload buyer agency. And you can pull stuff from your computer too, because some people do personalized letters to clients, or not exactly personalized, but maybe you have a, here's what to expect now that we're under contract paper, right? And it's something that you give to all your clients. Well, you can put that in your personalized template folder if you want from your computer, and you can do that by choosing browse. And again, it has to be a PDF copy, but you can choose browse, pull that in there, and then whenever you have buyers, you can just quickly grab that and throw that into the loop and send it out to them. So those are the two ways you can get documents here. But you can go into the document that you put in the template folder. This is where the Lantern logo will go. It doesn't show it right here in templates, but once you throw it into a loop, it'll be on there. So you can go through here. If you know that you're always only going to do residential, you're not going to do commercial, you can pre-check that. Let's see, you can go down here, and if you always have a standard that you put in here under the commission fees, you can go ahead and pre-fill that. If I don't charge retainer fees, so I'm just going to put NA. So if there are certain things that you know are standard, you can go ahead and you can just kind of pre-fill that stuff as you go through here. I'm always going to give these to my clients. And sometimes I will pull them up in a loop, throw an initial signature on there, and then send it to them that way and let them know this is just a sample copy of such and such. This is just basically what it means. Please review it and initial to acknowledge receiving it is the message that I typically send out. And then they get it, they initial it, and now you have proof that you did send it to them to review. So there are certain things, like I said, that are standard that I'm going to put in here. And in here, it should pre-fill this. If your profile is filled out right in Dotloop, it will pre-fill this, but you're welcome to pre-fill it here as well. If you feel like that could be an issue, or if you can't, or if you are getting one of those merged addresses, you can just put that in there and then save it. And then you have all your little options, and you can just hit save. So that just, you can do that with whatever forms you want. That just saves a little bit of time. Some of the stuff will pre-fill, some of the stuff you're going to fill out, of course, because I mean, term of agreement, client's name, you're obviously not going to have that. You can rename the document whatever you want. That's not a problem. It won't let you add anything because these are documents you pre-fill or that come that way. So you can create your own personalized ones. You can add new folders. If you hit add new folder, it'll tell you to name it, and then it will drop it over here to the side with all these other ones. So you can make folders, whatever personalized template folders that you want. So I suggest getting them set up. Although I will tell you, in about a month, we are supposed to have new forms come out. So if that's something you were going to do, if you were going to personalize any of the real estate forms, I would probably just wait until July when the new ones come out, so you're not having to do it all over again. But I would suggest, if you are not familiar with Dotloop, to create a loop. Just play around with it. Create a loop. Each person who's in here that you're going to send out for electronic signatures, they do have to each have their own email address. So you cannot assign two different people the same email address. That is how Dotloop, that's what they use to verify that it is that actual person signing for it and not their spouse or their friend or whatever. So just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, so you can do some of this stuff here. You can change the order. So right now my loops are in here by creation date. I can change it to last updated or whatever I want. There are filters. So you can archive a loop just like you can archive a document. That's what this little button is, archive it. So if you don't want to see the loop, or you're done with it, it's closed, or whatever the case can be, you don't need it anymore, you can archive it. It just hides it, just like that document. If you want to bring it back, you're going to click your filters. And right now it says hide any archived loops. I can change that to show me only archived loops or all. And when it shows you the archived loops, just like with the document, it'll say unarchived, right? And you can click that, it brings it back to life. Even if it's archived, you can get in it. You just might not see it if you have this little button marked as hide archived. So you can view your loops based on their status. I don't ever check that, because if you don't keep up with your status on your loops and you're telling it, I only want to see my under contract loops, but you have a tendency to leave them under other or whatever, you're not going to find your loop based on that. So, and you can change your view just by its personal preference. That's my preference. So that's where that is. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? Or did they have questions that I didn't see?
Melissa, you addressed my list of questions already. I had just one more thing. How do you upload an email into Dotloop?
Okay, so are you talking about the whole email in general, like your email thread conversation?
Just in a specific email that I sent to a listing agent.
Okay, so to do that, you want to go into your email. And when you pull up that email, one of your options should be to print that email. And you want to choose print to PDF. And then you can tell it to save it wherever you want in your computer, right? So once you have a PDF, then you can go into your loop. So if I'm in here and I need to save that, depending on where I want to put it, I'm going to tell it add document. So an email conversation, you cannot use the email option because it's only pulling PDF attachments. But if I saved that, if I did a print to PDF of that email and I saved it somewhere in my computer, then I can choose browse and it's going to pull up all kinds of stuff. Okay. And then if this is it, that's my email conversation. It's a PDF. I'm going to click it and I'm going to tell it to open it. And it just loaded it. So this is my pretend email conversation and it's in there and it's saved and you can name it whatever you want. So the one thing I like about the Dotloop app, if any of you have the Dotloop app, is you can upload things that are not PDF. Like if you have a document and you need to get it into Dotloop quickly because maybe you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're not near your computer and you need to get it in your loop, or maybe your scanner at home is not working. You have a few options. You tell it to add a probably Dotloop business, but you can tell it to add a document to the loop. And I will warn you that Dotloop app looks different than the laptop. Okay. I don't know about everybody else's phones. My icons are not labeled on my Dotloop app. So I had a lot of trial of error of touching the different icons and then trying to remember what they were. But anyway, so if you're in your loop in the app version and you have that document right there with you and you need to get it in that loop because you got to get it sent out wherever or whatever the case would be, you tell it to add a document to that loop, it's going to pop up a list of ways to do that. So two of the options that should come up is photo and scan. I use photo a lot because sometimes I will take pictures of the documents, and I try to take nice pictures because I don't want it blurry when it's uploaded into my loop or crinkled or whatever the case may be. But so you can take pictures ahead of time if you want, or not, but you can choose scan and it will work just like a scanner app, right? It'll tell you to scan the document and then it'll tell you to name it and whatever, and it uploads it. And what it does is it automatically converts it to a PDF. If you take pictures and you have a 5-page document and you need to get it up into Dotloop as one document, I will take pictures of each page, and then I will tell Dotloop to add the document, and it'll ask where, and I will tell it photos, and you have to say, yes, allow it access to all my photos, or this will not work, but tell it yes when it asks you. And then it'll take you to your photo gallery, and you can select all those pictures. What you have to remember is to select it in the order that you want the documents to be, because it will stack them all into one document. So if you take your pictures in order and then you select them in order, it will put it in there as one document. If you are just randomly taking pictures and randomly hitting the select buttons, that is how your document's going to be, a big old jumbled random document in your loop. But in any case, you can do that, and then you can adjust the documents as needed, and then upload them, and it'll take those photos and it will automatically convert those photos into a PDF document into Dotloop. So that is very handy. I use that feature a lot, but it will only do that in the app. So on your laptop, you just have to have something that's a PDF copy. So I am sure I am missing stuff to tell you on this. I went a little bit more into the documents than I meant to, as far as what to-dos and what not to-dos, because this is not really a forms class, but it kind of is, because the forms are going in your loop. Did anybody else have questions? Or are there any written comments? I can't see my comments bar.
So one more concern, there at the left of the buyer client's name, there is a circle, okay? It is
Yes.
white at the beginning.
Mhm.
As you advance in the transaction, it becomes bit by bit blue.
Mhm.
Sometimes I notice that one circle close blue immediately, and sometimes another transaction go too slow. I mean,
Mhm.
what's the difference between one and another? Why one will close? What am I doing wrong that one closes faster than the other?
I don't think you're doing anything wrong, and this is just pure speculation. I think it has to do with like if I think it has to do with the documents being completed or not completed, because sometimes, for example, when you submit for a review, when you submit documents for a review by using that little button up there, some documents I don't need to see, right? So I don't go in there and I don't clear them. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It has to do with incomplete documents, because it says tasks, 0% of tasks completed. There is a task down here. There is a task button that shows up. And like right now it's saying, hey, the buyer agency needs signed. So some of it I think kind of has to do with that as well. It used to really bother me at first, because I like my circles to be completed when the transaction is done. But I've learned to kind of let that go a little bit. If you know that you have done everything you need to for a transaction and you have everything done, just don't look at that circle. So, I mean, that's my suggestion. I had to learn to do that because it used to bug me, because I wanted it to be complete when I was all done. And it's just, as long as I know that I've got everything in there, my documents are completed and whatever, I just had to let it go.
Okay, that's fine. How about when the transaction closed, the purchase price is different from, or the listing price is different from the closing price? Should we change it always at the far end?
Actually, up at the top,
Yeah.
you can. There's, I think it's under reporting right here. There's actually a place where, yeah. So you can, if you want to, if you want this to be accurate. So because this little reporting button right here, it takes everything, and how you label things is how it pulls it up. So China, yours would probably look different than mine because I'm using a profile that I almost never use. So it doesn't have a whole lot of anything in here. But if you like click on your reporting, it's going to probably be colorful and have all kinds of bars everywhere. So part of that is probably going to be based on what you put in. So if you want that to be as accurate as possible, you can adjust that. I don't really look at the list price versus the purchase price that it closes with or anything like that. Personally, I'm trying to make sure your forms are in there and complete. But if for you want it to be as accurate as possible, then go ahead and change it. But yeah, so you can do this and like, see, you can see what you did in the last 30 days. Say mine disappears because this is just a side profile that I have for miscellaneous stuff. But you can adjust that and all that information changes. So it's just kind of a quick way. It's probably not the most accurate way to judge your sales and everything like that, but it's in there if you want it. Side note, please, if you guys need me to see a loop or a document, I will ask you, please do not go in and tell it to share it with me specifically. Because what happens is when you do that, it makes me open it up in one of my personal real estate profiles. So then my loop with my personal transactions becomes filled with everybody else's loops. So if you do need me to see a loop, just shoot me a text or an email that just says, hey, can you check out this loop? If you submit it for review, you don't have to tell me, it automatically sends me an email. So that is the best thing. If everybody just please, pretty please don't share with me just because it won't let me put it in an admin loop. It makes me put it in my personal one. So, and I like everybody a lot and I enjoy the people I work with, but I don't want my profile filled with everybody else's loops. So that's just a side note. What else? Does anybody have any questions? There's a whole lot to Dotloop, but that's the basics. I'm hoping I covered everything that's going to help. Some people do put the listing agent or the other agent on the other side of the transaction in their loop. That is up to you. If you do that and you share documents with them or send them documents, just be mindful of what you are sending. For my own peace of mind, I don't typically do that. But that's me. But you can do that. And if you do that and you send them anything through Dotloop, like I said, you will be able to see when they open it. Otherwise, if you send them stuff through email, you got to wait for them to respond to actually know that they saw your email. But Dotloop shows pretty much, like I said, shows everything through your activity log or your history. But again, as you go, just submit for review, choose the document, hit done, submit, enter, whatever. And it will notify me that way. So, but you can change it. When I go under contract, for example, when I go under contract with a buyer, and I will come in here and either at the beginning or at the end, it doesn't matter. I will go in here and, I will name it whatever, right? And I'll always leave my client's name up there. That's for me, but that's also for any admin who needs to find the loop. It's easiest because then we can reference it by either the name or the address. And that comes in handy sometimes because sometimes those commission checks come with no information on them. And it just makes it easier for everybody to track down who the agent is. Any more questions? Did I miss something that somebody wanted to know? I know you guys can see me clicking all kinds of stuff probably, but yeah. Okay, if nobody else has any questions, I will end it. If you need time one-on-one, let me know. We'll make up time to sit and do this. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to text me, call me, or email me, and I will, as soon as possible, get to you and answer whatever I can. And if I cannot answer it, I will tell you. I'm not going to make something up, I promise. But I will steer you in the direction I believe you can get your information from if I don't have it. So with that being said, thank you all for joining. This is recorded, so we will get it out there as soon as we can. That might be next week, but you can watch it again, or you can reach out to me if you have questions, or Dotloop does have that other additional site. If you go to the Help Center, and you can find videos, tutorials, or you can register for any of their webinars to learn different things. If you want to upload the Dotloop app and you don't have it, or if you have it and you're not familiar with it, they actually have, I think it's videos for that as well. And they are different depending on if you have the iOS versus the Android. So that's helpful also. But yes, any questions in the future, let me know. Any questions, comments, suggestions, anything, just let me know. And I appreciate everybody joining. So hope you have a good weekend. It's almost the weekend. Tomorrow, we're just going to say it today. So have a good weekend, and happy selling.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome. Oh.